Welcome, everyone. My name is Jim O'Brill. I am the marketing director for the Chicago Auto Show and one of the co-hosts of Drive Chicago Radio on WLS AM 890. Since we don't have the Chicago Auto Show currently happening right now, it didn't happen in February, we are, like it normally does, our goal this week is to highlight some of our manufacturers, and we've been focusing on compact crossovers, which is a ever-growing category here in the automotive world, and highlighting some key vehicles that are hot right now and bringing in some manufacturers to talk about these new vehicles and the technology. In regards to the auto show, we're still very hopeful to be able to host a show this summer. We're still working with city and state officials to get that final approval. So we do encourage all of our fans that are tuning in and watching this on social media. Stay tuned to our social media. Be patient with us. We are working on it. We want to have a show. Just need to work out those final details, but we will post updates as soon as we have them. If you have questions during today's discussion, feel free to type them in the comments. We will try to address them either during the conversation or towards the end. So with that, let's jump in. I want to welcome our guest, Justin Pagtalunan. He is a product communications manager for Mazda. So Justin, welcome, and thank you for joining me today. Mazda has expanded its crossover lineup this year with the addition of the new CX-30, which I definitely want to get to and highlight. But before we do that, let's chat a little bit about the CX-5. I spent some time driving this vehicle and have a review posted up on Drive Chicago for those interested in the CX-5. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the CX-5 is Mazda's best-selling vehicle. What makes this particular model so attractive to buyers?
Well, no correction needed. So yes, CX-5 is the best-selling Mazda in the U.S. So it's our bread and butter. It's one of our favorite cars, basically. And I think what makes it attractive, like that's kind of the key word, like attractive. It's so stunning. It looks great. Like the design, it's very modern. It's sleek. It's sophisticated. Like that's everything we're going for inside and out. It has the great materials. It's well crafted. It just really feels like a step above once you get into it and drive it. And then beyond that, the best part is really driving it. Like, Mazda vehicles are some of the, trying to be as unbiased as possible, but Mazda vehicles are some of the best driving vehicles I've been in. And you feel that throughout our whole lineup, and CX-5 is no different. It's, that it has the power, it has the right, the handling, it's tuned very well. So all of that packaged into a beautiful looking car is, one of the big reasons why I think customers are really, really taking to it.
Yeah, I'd echo your comments there, having been in it. From a design standpoint, this was last refreshed in 2017, so it's not even the most current in the competition, but it still looks stunning. That the design that Mazda put in, this was, I believe, the first one to launch the Kodo design. Is that correct? Because that's kind of carried through on the other models that we've seen with the new Mazda 3 and the Mazda 6. And they are kind of a timeless. I give Mazda a lot of credit for building such a stunning looking vehicle. But yeah, the driving dynamics is really, I agree. That's where it's at in this car. So talk to us about the powertrains available in the CX-5 and what trim levels are available on this car.
Of course. So it's available in two powertrains. Both of them are 2.5 liters. In the entry level trims, it's the naturally aspirated engine. It does about 187 horsepower, if I'm correct, with 186 foot-pounds of torque. And then when you step up into the higher trim levels, so Grand Touring, Reserve, and Signature, then you add the turbo power trim, and that just opens up to even more possibilities. With premium fuel, that can get up to 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. And whichever one you go with, you get great fuel economy on it. You get superb driving and everything. So you kind of can't really go wrong. It's all what's your preference? Do you prefer a naturally aspirated, or you prefer a turbo engine? So we give our customers some options there.
So talking about that turbo option, you mentioned it here. It runs on regular grade or premium fuel. I don't know that I've come across that all that often, but that's pretty cool that Mazda has basically gives you that option. So tell us a little bit how that fuel type affects the engine and its performance.
Yeah, I'll do my best PR spin. I'm not an engineer, so the engineers always do a better job at this than I do. But I mean, it's similar to what I was just saying. Like, we want to give our customers options, so, and that includes options at the pump. We want to make sure that customers know that you can go with regular fuel or premium fuel, and there won't really be like a major, like, it's fine for the engine. Like it'll perform really great, and in cruising low RPM speeds, it's going to do everything you need to do. What's the big difference is that, the peak torque. So if you're putting regular 87 octane fuel, it's about 227 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. Once you put premium 93 octane fuel, it bumps up to as high as 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. So the great thing there is, you get more horsepower, you get more torque, and if you've put some kind of fuel somewhere in between, there's you can imagine all the technology is really smart nowadays. So it kind of takes that into account. It builds in whatever factors of that fuel and everything around it and puts you somewhere in between. So kind of whatever fuel you put in it, the engine will know what to do and provide that customer the best experience.
And new for 2021 is an updated and larger infotainment screen in the CX-5. It integrates with both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. But the one thing I noticed is it's solely controlled via either steering wheel controls or that jog dial. There's no touchscreen. Talk to me a little bit about that and why Mazda kind of continues to go that route. Are we going to continue to see that? Do you think there may be a change in the future as more and more people are adding touchscreens to the infotainment systems?
Well, I'm glad you noticed. A lot of people have noticed, a lot of media, a lot of consumers, they ask us this all the time. And basically, my opinion on it is I know technology is moving to the touchscreen. Everybody is focused on that. And while that's all well and good and we want to keep up with current technologies, the most important thing that we look at is safety. And honestly, we feel like a dial, the buttons, the physical touches, when you push those things, you get a response back. You know exactly what you're pushing, what you're turning to. When it's a touch screen, I know some people try, they try to do it without looking and all that stuff, but it's not 100% accurate. So, you're at this, either you have to look at the screen to touch it and really get what you want to get, but then what happens there is that your eyes are then off the road. And ultimately, we don't want that at all. We want to keep the driver's eyes on the road because that's what we're focused on. We were talking about how these vehicles are great driving vehicles. So part of that is the driver being in control, meaning they have to look at the road. So anything that we can do to minimize them looking off, separately off to the side on the screen or whatever, we try to minimize that as much as possible. And that's why we go for the rotary dial. That's why we go for the buttons, and to really have that haptic feel when you push that button, you know exactly what you're getting. You're going to click on the navigation button, you're going to click on the audio button, whatever it may be. And all to, like I said, to keep your eyes on the road and focus on safety.
I will say the first couple days, it took some getting used to with that rotary dial, but by the end of my week in the CX-5, it did become second nature. So I will echo to anyone that has reservations about it, your mind does kind of get used to it fairly quickly. To the point that when I got in the next car, I kept reaching for a rotary dial to control the touchscreen because it did just become second nature after spending time in the CX-5. So
yeah, I could totally add to that. It does have a learning curve, but all to the better, to leading to safety. And really where that button is, that rotary dial, it's naturally right by the shifter. So a lot of people, especially if you're familiar with manual transmissions, it's right where your hand rests. So everything's in a natural position. So it's all helpful for that. So.
Yeah, it really is. And another thing that's new for 2021 is the Carbon Edition that you've launched on a few different models. I think it's a cool package. Tell us a little bit more about this package, and is this a 2021 exclusive thing, or do we think this is going to carry on into the future?
Well, this is your second future question, and I'm not really going to answer too many. But no, it's good to look ahead for all that stuff. We introduced it for 2021, so ultimately, we just want to see what the feedback is from our fans, and what we're going to do to going forward and all these things. So if everybody really loves it, there's no reason for us to take it away. That said, so something special about it is it's kind of more positioned in the mid trim, and it's for the CX-5, the CX-9, and the Mazda 6. Basically, we know that our customers are, they love the vehicle from the entry level to the mid to the upper trim. So we wanted to make something special in the mid trim. For Carbon Edition specifically, we put in Polymetal Gray, which is this new really cool gray that we've introduced for Mazda 3 and CX-30. So we're adding it to these vehicles. And then in the interior, it has a red leather, and there's also black accents. There's really some cool features that make it feel really sporty, and just kind of, make that mid-trim feel even more special.
So shifting gears a little bit, the CX-5 has grown in popularity since it first came out. You guys have since expanded the lineup, most recently to launch the CX-30. So talk to us a little bit how the CX-30 fits into the lineup, and let's talk about this new model that's joined the lineup.
Sure. So the CX-30 size-wise, it's a little bit bigger than the CX-3 and it's smaller than the CX-5. We're really trying to fit into that compact crossover segment. We know it's a really popular segment that we want to give our fans a lot of different options in. And CX-30 has a lot of these great features. It has the newest design that you've seen in Mazda 3. Basically compared to the CX-5, where most customers with the CX-5 are probably more family oriented. You basically are focused on hauling more people in your car. CX-30 is maybe more for individuals, couples, or young families where you don't have to put too much in the rear. And maybe what you use the rear for is more for cargo. You active lifestyle, you want to put like a bike or something in there. And it's really a smaller compact crossover that encourages people to kind of go out more and explore beyond the city, get a little bit outdoorsy or whatnot, and just kind of, like I said, explore and do more. And, it's a very capable compact crossover for its size with a lot of great features.
So talk about some of those features and benefits that is going to attract that crowd of buyers for the CX-30.
Sure. So, I mentioned the design is all new, or it's all new vehicle, but it's carrying a lot of the design from the Mazda 3. And then from there, it's just the way it's packaged. It's really well done. Something that most people probably overlook is that there's rear AC vents. So for a vehicle this size, that's actually not very common. So we wanted to make sure we included that so that people in the rear they can stay nice and comfortable and all that stuff. There's also a available power lift gate. So while that's very common in vehicles like the CX-5, for smaller vehicles like the CX-30, that's not there, but we've wanted to make sure we included it. There's roof rails. So like I said, fitting in with the active lifestyle. And one of the, probably lesser known new features is it also has off-road traction assist. So that's a nice little feature that, paired with our all-wheel drive makes this, smaller compact crossover be even more capable outdoors and on some uneven terrain. Oh, and then there's also a turbo trim level. So
You're right, one step ahead of me. That's where I was going to jump in here. We talk about performance in the CX-5 and how the CX-5 is kind of known. Personally, each car in that segment has a niche, and Mazda's is kind of the driving dynamics and the fun. So going down to the CX-30, you've put the turbocharged engine in there. The turbocharged engine is back in the Mazda 3. I think people are very excited to have this news because Mazdas are so much fun to design, so much fun to drive. So talk to us about the performance of the CX-30.
Sure. So virtually it's the same engine. It provides the same output, but you can imagine we've packaged it a little bit differently to fit in these smaller platforms, both for the CX-30 and the Mazda 3. And to me personally, the great thing is yes, the added horsepower, the extra pep in the step, or however you want to call it. But it's not just that; it's everything else is refined around it. The suspension is really, it fits really well. The NVH, so it's really nice and quiet. So it's the whole ride around it, and that's really what's special about the turbo engine. It's smooth, it's responsive, and especially when you pair it with all-wheel drive for the CX-30, like it's just that really good natural driving feeling.
Now, is there a version of the CX-30 Turbo that is not all-wheel drive, or is it exclusively an all-wheel drive vehicle?
So yeah, when you get turbo, it's standard all-wheel drive.
Okay.
It's like the match made in heaven kind of pairing.
Okay. What about the vehicle's design inside and out? To me, Mazda's moving upscale. Hop into any Mazda, whether it's the 3, it's the CX-30, it's the CX-5. It's got a very premium feel throughout its design. I think Mazda's done a great job of putting high quality materials and kind of moving upscale. It's not just a standard sedan or a crossover anymore. Talk to me a little bit about that and how Mazda's incorporated that into their vehicles.
Yeah, definitely. So, Mazda is a Japanese company, so we kind of pull a lot of our inspiration through Japanese heritage and the Japanese aesthetic, and really looking for that well-crafted materials. And for most, like we were just talking about the Mazda 3 and the CX-30, those are our most recent design philosophies. We focus on this less is more kind of look. It makes it look more sophisticated. It makes it look modern and timeless. And that's both on the exterior and on the interior. One of my personal favorites is our what is it? The digital gauge cluster. So the way, if you ever look at it, it's digital. So there's more information. You can toggle different things, but it still looks like an analog. So it has that really timeless feel, and it really fits with everything else. And it's just that, like I said, it's that less is more. Like once you have that, it's like only the essential things are there, and you really appreciate what you have. And then it also helps you focus on the driving dynamics, which is we've been talking about a lot on this call right now.
Of course. If you're just tuning in, my name is Jim O'Brill. I'm the marketing director with the Chicago Auto Show, and we're talking with Justin Pagtalunan from Mazda about the Mazda CX-5 and CX-30. If you have any questions, feel free to pop those into the comments section, and we will address them. Let's talk about safety and safety features and driver assist features that you guys have put into the CX-30 and CX-5. Tell us a little bit more about how Mazda's incorporated that into the standard package, and then what else is available beyond that.
Yeah, so when especially with the CX-30 Turbo, you get a 360 view camera. So that's great for parking. I'm sure we're all pretty familiar with that. But as I was kind of talking about a little bit earlier, how CX-30 can do some more off-roading. This 360 camera actually can it works at low speeds. So if you're actually off like on some uneven terrain, you can use that to kind of see what you can't see. Like any rocks or holes that you can kind of avoid. So that's a neat feature for both on-road and off-road. And obviously for safety, we also added smart brake support, reverse and rear cross-traffic braking. So what those are automatic braking features. Basically, if you're going in reverse and either there's an obstacle or a vehicle or something, whatever you have behind you that's in the way or coming toward you, it'll automatically apply the brakes so you don't accidentally back up into something. There's also a new traffic jam assist feature. So what this is this adds on to our Mazda radar cruise control, which is our version of adaptive cruise control, and it adds some steering input. And it's geared toward lower speeds, so under 40 miles per hour. So it's really for when you're in bumper to bumper traffic, and it follows the lanes, it follows the car ahead of you, and it just kind of keeps you there. But as I mentioned, the driver is the focus, so the driver still needs to have their hands on. It's not autonomous driving because we never want the machine to take over of the person. We want the driver to always be in control. But if there's any ways we can add safety to help them and assist them, we're going to try to do what we can.
Yeah, that's tons of great stuff that you guys have going on here. Anything else you want to share before we see if there's any more questions from fans here that we haven't touched on yet on either of these vehicles?
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great questions. I think overall, I just wanted to share that, we said CX-5 was the best-selling vehicle. I don't know if you know, but CX-30 has become our second best-selling vehicle. So, all I can share is really just thanks to all the fans and everybody for being so interested in. And really, it's really helped our company be up year over year in sales, which is very surprising after a very, very difficult year. So, I just want to say thanks to everybody. I'm glad we're also trying to do our best to make this as normal as possible, and we're staying safe. But getting behind the wheel and behind the Mazda is great.
Yeah, and Mazda's received some recent awards. I know you guys are really building some great vehicles. I do want to ask: is now a good time to buy? Any incentives out there on these cars that people should be aware of if they're in the market?
I mean, is there a bad time to buy a Mazda vehicle? I don't think so. But I actually did some research. So our HQ is in Irvine, Southern California. That's where I'm from. But I know there's a lot of Chicago fans on here. So I looked up specifically in the Chicago area, and we do have a 0% APR financing on select terms. I believe it's $199 per month lease or something like that. I also do know that if you are a current Mazda owner with a lease and you're considering returning, because I mean, who wouldn't? There is a $500 lease-to-lease loyalty offer for qualifying owners. So if you want to get back into a 2021 CUV, Mazda CUV, or anything like that, I'm sure there's a lot more deals and offers at the dealership. So I would totally recommend going to one of them and asking and getting all the details. That's kind of what I know from where I'm over here at. But
well,
yeah.
Sure. Well, on that note, you can visit drivechicago.com here in Chicago to find a Mazda dealer near you. You can also, on our website there, you can see my review of the Mazda CX-5 with a link to the YouTube video we put together. specifically on the CX-5, but on other Mazda vehicles as well. We're reviewing cars all the time. So check out drivechicago.com. And Justin, thanks so much for taking some time off of your day to join us here and discuss great offerings from Mazda. Awesome news that the CX-30 has jumped to be, your second leading vehicle here in such a short amount of time. Excited to see where things go with the Mazda brand. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
And if anyone else has any more questions, feel free to type them in the chat. We'll be monitoring it and we'll do our best to address them, even though we're wrapping up our recording here. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and stay tuned for more information on the auto show.